Alright, gonna play some 3-minute on leadchess.org. Let's play a polar bear with 1f4. Okay, From's Gambit. I think I am not going to defend it today. I'm going to play knight f3 and knight c3, let them recapture on e5, and get a sort of king's pawn-like position where my f-pawn's missing. I will play e4 next turn. They can't stop me with e4 themselves because my knight covers it. And then white usually follows with bishop b5 with some pressure against e5, though I'm probably not going to take it. Yeah, I don't think I will. I think black gets a lot of counterplay, what with my king being kind of in the open. Knight g4 is sometimes a threat, but not too big a deal. I'm going to play rook f1. I can't castle kingside anyway because of the bishop. And so if I play rook f1 and h3, get rid of their knight, I don't feel too worried. Alright, at this point, I think I would like to pin their knight, sort of threaten knight d5, and start piling up on the pinned piece. We'll make it red circle, just to indicate that it is a weakness. I always forget how to make different colors, so I usually just make green arrows. Okay, this is a nice move of theirs. I like this move. It attacks my knight and my bishop and vacates the c6 square, and if c6 is played, they control d5, which is a square I'd often like to enter. If I play knight d5 myself, they can take the bishop, so I'm going to start by retreating the bishop. That does allow bishop g4, so I could also take their knight first. Maybe I should do that. Okay, I'll start with knight takes knight, and then I'll play knight d5. Am I going to get into problems? Knight d5, c6, knight takes f6, gf6, and both my bishops will be hanging. I could play bishop h6 there, they take on b5, but if I take on f8, I'm not getting adequate material back. So I think I do want to retreat to c4. Knight d5 is a real threat. Now their bishop can't get back to e7 to better secure f6. If they play bishop g4, I can play bishop f6, I believe, and win a piece. If they play bishop takes c3, I have to accept the doubled pawns, but I will have the two bishops, and I will then be able to castle kingside. So they correctly, I think, defend the d5 square. Now I quite like queen f3, just adding a little pressure. Maybe rook f1 is a better way to do it. Yeah, because if queen f3, and I take on f6, they'd take back queen, and once we trade queens, I won't have attacking prospects. But after rook f1, when I take on f6, it's much more scary for them to take back g-pawn, because with my queen still on the board, their king will be in the open. So I like rook f1, and I feel good about my position. They could play something like queen a5. Okay, this is possible, but I'm going to start bishop f6, and then maybe queen h5. There's also rook f3. They can wreck my pawn structure here, but I think their king is in more danger. Because they can take on both c3 and c4 and give me these horrendous-looking tripled pawns. But rook f3 is coming so quickly, possibly to h3, possibly to g3. Probably to g3 first, force king h8, and then to h3. So they're trying to defend. I think I should start with rook f3. This looks like a very hard position for them to defend. At some point I may take on e6, but when I do, they suddenly can start defending on the 7th rank, and they have an easier time covering g7 and h7. Bishop f4 is clever. It covers the square I want to use. Now, I have a few options here. I could take on e6 and play queen g4, and then I think they have to play f7 to hold on to e6. That seems pretty good. I could play g3, and where does their bishop go? Where does their bishop go? You tell me. I think I'll start with bishop takes e6, though. Just so they can't take here and then potentially have queen d2 options. So now g3, and I believe their bishop is trapped. They could play something like queen d4, and when I take, play queen g1, trying to skewer the rook, but I can defend with rook f1 there. So I don't see how they save the bishop, and I think this is winning, and I will now massively speed up, because I'd like to win. Okay. They're going to take on b2. Interesting. Okay, they found some interesting play. I'm going to try to get it in on b7 in response. But this was an interesting defensive try, and I'm not entirely sold on my position, though. I'm going to also threatening to take on f6, but this has gotten much harder to try to win in very limited time left. Okay. I guess I will take on f6 this way. Try to remove a key defender they have around their king. I guess g6, they can't take my rook because of queen h7. Threatening h8, but I think I'm going to clock here. They defended this nicely with no time. Now they're going to make some checks. I'm going to try to get to safety. Yeah, they got me on time. Okay, but I think I played a nice game and had, you know, a comfortable win on the board. I wonder if I had something more precise around here. Because, like, I'm clearly winning. Knight d1, just defend it, don't worry about winning the bishop immediately. That makes a lot of sense. I was in a rush, and that gave them some compensation. Here, g6 immediately, yeah, that's a nice attacking move. Then they'd never have gotten in rook f7. My move's still winning, but much less winning. Rook f7, now I played rook f6, which is maybe not winning. Yeah, this would have been clever if they'd kept the rook on the rank and avoided trades. Now I had this g6 shot, which I think was a nice find. And, you know, I'm just up a rook here. But didn't do it in time. Alright. 0 for 1. Gotta play a bit faster in the opening too. It's strange because you want to explain and you don't want to have moved until you've explained what you're thinking. And then by that time you're suddenly down a minute entering the middle game. This seems very passive from white. I'm going to get, you know, a big center. Play knight f6. If they play d4, I'll play e4. I think they should have tried to at least come to e5, get some activity. I could castle. I could also play h5. Kind of like the look of that. Just supporting like pieces to g4. Can I do anything clever? Don't see it yet, so I'll develop normally. I intend to castle queenside. Threatening to take on d2 if the rook moves. Can take on g3 now. They have knight g2 at the end, saving the rook. Play h4. Maybe just f5. Just keep expanding on the side of the board I'm attacking. Alright, maybe threaten g5 now. I'd also like to castle queenside at some point. But their rook is like the targetable piece here. Alright, have to take back this pawn or I lose my queen. And now... maybe I don't want to give them the h5 pawn with check, so I'll just castle queenside, blunder that. They can now come to c5, which I think they should have done. Now their rook has limited squares. That would hang f5. So knight e5 doesn't look so good. Let's try to just open things up. I was thinking knight e5 using the pin, but I don't think it did much. Right. Gonna take. Look to open lines. Queen h7 both defends my pawn and threatens to come in on h2. Also maybe bishop d5 coming, because if the rook moves, then queen h1 and rook takes is game. So I think I'll play bishop d5, bishop f5, of course. Therefore, maybe queen h2 first, and then f4 to open up bishop d5 or bishop h3. I don't have bishop h3. I'm going to play bishop d5. Maybe rook e8 to stop king escapes. Okay, I'll just play a simple line. grab the rook. Kind of wish I'd found better. Okay, now maybe rook h2. Yeah, I think I can take this and then go for this later. Well, maybe not, because queen h1, king c2, my rook's hanging. If I take here, they can take here. And they'll go into an endgame down a piece, so I guess rook check is better. Yes, much better, because that's just winning. Ooh, don't know why that took me so long to find. Okay, I'll just grab everything. There may have been a mate. They can safely resign here. We'll just open things up, I guess. I threaten rook a2. Alright. 1 for 2. Played faster that time. Still was, behind 40 seconds on the clock, but their name is Every Second Matters. How true it is. You can try to play the opening a bit quicker, just to not immediately be down a minute on the clock. But I say that every time, and then I don't, so, should probably just stop saying it. But against the Pirc, I tend to play knight c3 and f4. I used to play bishop c4 in my youth, but I've been liking this f4 with a very quick e5. Either going into an endgame or playing really aggressively if they move the knight away instead. If they take, I go for the endgame. Here, I try to play h4, h5 real fast. Yeah. And just put a lot of pressure on them early. c5 is the best move, and black can win a pawn here. If they play fe5 or play knight c6 first, I should retreat to f2, and I'm trying to take and play a quick queen h4. And I think white has a nice game. One point is it's hard for them to take back f when I have constant bishop c4 in the air. If this pawn's been taken, then suddenly hg6, fg6, bishop c4, king h8, there can be rook h7, king h7, queen h4 can be mating. So I'm gonna... So they prevented me from coming here. That was their point. I think I'll start by playing hg6, curious which way they recapture. Now... maybe that was wrong, because I have more pressure against here than I usually would allow. So I probably should have left that there, because this was a good recapture from them. That was a misunderstanding of the position. I'd like to get castle to queen's side, but now bishop e3, ef4, and I can't take it. So what about just bishop d2? Bishop d2, castle queens, and then get back to going for their king. I didn't want bishop c4, because knight b6 grabs this tempo against it. Ooh. Rook h7 doesn't win, but it's not so far away from winning. Maybe g3, try to open things. Maybe knight e4. Yeah, looking to come to g5. And then f7 and e6 are weaknesses, as is h7. So I think I've blown this fairly badly. I also now have discoveries with the bishop, but I'm going to start with knight g5. I think I blew the opening, but have a nice position. If e4, maybe bishop c3. Maybe bishop c3 anyway. Maybe not. Should think. I can play queen h4. I haven't really had a chance to do that, but now there's pieces blocking. So maybe start with queen h4. Is inducing h6 that important? I think it's nice to include. I'm going to start with queen h4. And now maybe bishop c3, or should I jump at knight f7 now? Right, I'm going to just grab the material. Their knight is currently pinned to their queen. Not too important, but maybe something. Alright, still pinned. I'm going to bring my bishop back to its most stable square. They can play e4. I'm not too worried about it. Gonna mobilize my pieces against their king. Maybe play rook du1 at some point just to get out of this pin, because it's kind of annoying. Gonna just start activating. Way behind on the clock per usual. What you gonna do? Their king has so few squares. If I can double rooks on the 7th, so they should probably play rook d8. Maybe I should have played rook d1 first. Not entirely sure what they're thinking about. Okay. Rook d7, ab3, no. Okay. Bishop c4, knight a5. So I guess bishop e6, knight d8. Interesting. So I guess I'll go to d5. Now if the knight moves, I threaten rook g7. Should have come to this square immediately. That's a very strong square. And if rook c8, I take on c6, they take, and then I have rook d8, and rook takes f8 mate. So I'm going to win ample material here, because any knight move is met by rook g7, and then bishop a8. And even with 24 seconds, I should be able to manage this one. But it did take me way too long to find bishop d5. I was trying to find a square that didn't stop me playing rook d7 next turn. But got too focused on one idea. Alright, now I'm ahead on the clock, which makes this much easier. Alright, they just disconnected. Okay. Oh, they're back. Alright, rook takes g7. Bishop takes a8. Bring in the rook. Maybe pull the bishop back. Okay, I'll just go grabbing. Why not? Okay. I think resigning is safe. Like, whose time is, Alright. 2 for 3. I like that h4 pawn push. I think I played it wrong when they went the early e6, and I should not have taken on g6, and I should look back at that, because that's pretty important how to play that line. And I should be aware of how to deal with a move as, you know, standard as e6. It makes a lot of sense. Well, I guess I'll just play a boring exchange. It's what every book recommends. I'll try to do it a little spicy with a kind of h3 g4 push. I'll go for, and maybe castle queenside. Okay, without my knight committed to f3, I'm pretty happy to, if they want to spend this much time trading off the bishop. Okay. I'm going to play h3 next, and then castle queenside, and then look to play g4. They've spent a lot of time putting their queen on e7 and their bishop on d6. I'm not sure how much it's worth for them. I'll try to checkmate them. When in doubt. Maybe bring the knight to f5. It's pretty standard repositioning. I don't know how much their knight on e6 does. I think I will play knight f5 because I'd be happy to open the g file. If they want to take on take pawns, be my guest. I'm going to use the time to double up. That's not a move. Okay, so they just thought they had knight f2 grabbing another pawn, and that was worth opening the g file. I like this line for white, though. And I think the knight g3 to f5 maneuver is pretty useful. Okay. I think my bishop is less valuable than my knight, and I don't want to lose a tempo after taking. I want to quickly activate. I could insert f6 here, but they don't have time for f6 themselves, because g7's it, so they'll just resign. Queen f6, I'm just going to take on g7, trade both rooks for the queen, play like queen g2 check, and then knight e4, and then f6 or knight f6. Alright. Let's play one more, 3 for 4, before looking back at the third game, because that game I should figure out what I was supposed to do in the opening. I should figure out some fun stuff to do against the QGD to get more interesting games in it. Alright, let's play the QGD myself. Keep hoping for this. Maybe you won't get a chance. Okay, early a6. Idea, take on c4, and just keep the pawn. We're going to go for it. We're playing a Janowski QGD. Now when they do this, maybe knight c6, and I have this knight a5 option. And then it can be annoying for them to try to regain the pawn. Maybe they have knight e5 here. And then I'll try to counter in the center quickly. I have knight b3 sometimes. I'll start by taking. Do I want knight b3? I don't know. Do I want bishop b4 check? Well, if I want both, I think I'll start with knight b3. And then bishop b4 check, so they can't play bishop d2. They probably have to play knight c3. I was going to take the bishop, but I'm not so pumped about it, so maybe knight f6. They can play knight b6, rook b8, bishop f4. I did blunder that. I am very lucky. Maybe bishop d7, attack a4, and get so I can just play rook d8 and reply to knight b6. Okay, now I think I will take and play bishop c5 so their king can't tuck away so easily. Gotta worry that my bishop's on the same file as their rooks. Castles or king e7? Maybe king e7. With their dark squared bishop gone, I don't know how they can annoy my king, and it's nice to keep it a little more central. I should keep knight h5 check in mind, because that can be annoying for them. But I kind of like to play like rook c8 and b5. Now if we play knight h5, I wonder where the king's going. Play b5 first. Maybe getting a bishop b6 once their knight is moved away. I'm just curious what their king's doing and kind of want to harass it a bit. Okay. This is a pin. If they play f4, I have b4 and then knight e4. Yeah. I feel they made a lot of overly loose moves. My position was pretty stable. Ah, totally missed this. Fair point. Can I take on c3 and then b2? I'm going to try it. I think this is an in-between move that works. I can also play gf6, rook g8. The king just comes to f3 and it's pretty stable there. So I'm going to try the in-between move because I don't see what they can do. But this is the way to lose. Probably rook a3 and then rook g8, and then bishop takes f4. My king's going to have not the greatest squares, but... It seems very risky. Alright, let's chase their king a little more. Maybe swing the rook over so that my king can run this way. Okay. This gives them e5 with tempo. That might have been wrong too. Ooh. Yeah. Bad move. Just creating losing chances for myself. Okay, rook a2. Don't let their rook invade. Only my rooks can invade. Fair enough. Threatening bishop e3. I don't know. I'm going to be low on time too. Alright, I'm going to try to bring the king to g7 where it's a little more stable. Threatening rook e3. I don't think any discovery does anything. Put all my pieces on dark squares. Just going to lose this game on the clock. Nothing much to say. Shouldn't have gone there. They can take on h7. Now, might be threatening bishop d4, rook e3 in some order. Not really a threat. I allowed bishop d3, which would have simplified for them a bit. Yeah. Can't pre-move king g4 in case they play like rook e1, but I wanted to. Let's try to infiltrate. Get blundered bishop e4. Nope, don't want to go there. Yeah, too slow. Alright. 3 for 5, despite really having clock troubles. But the interesting game was this one, where the question is, how do I meet e6? And I would bet normal developing move. No! hg6 is good. Interesting. Alright, so queen g3 is a useful idea to know, because this isn't the only way to get to h4. I can also go queen g3 to h2. So that's just smart. I was not familiar with different ways to get to the file. That's neat. But I wonder why hg6 works. hg6, fg6, and I got confused. Knight g5. Figured there were, like, I guess queen takes g5 doesn't work because I get an exchange for it. But, knight f6, just bishop d3. Or f5? With the idea of bishop c4 to follow. I don't have proper attacking instincts. What about gf5? Just keep loading up. So alright, just gotta like play more forceful every turn. I was watching a Peter Svidler video from the Banter Blitz Cup today, and he was talking about like, if my opponent has to make a slow move here, I'm doing well. And I think I see these positions, and I just, made a slow move. And this is not a position for slow moves. There's also this queen g3 idea. What's the threat? Queen h3. Or rook takes h7. It's already a threat. So if they play like here, is rook takes h7 already winning? No, for some reason it's not after knight c6. Why not? Alright, so why was it a threat then? What does knight c6 stop if we put in a random move? Queen h3, king g8, queen e6, f7, bishop c4, queen f8, knight g5. Maybe they'd have knight d4 here if the knight was out? I don't know. Alright, so just got to play this much more aggressively. Quick knight g5. Hit hard, just happy to throw another pawn. If ef4, that's our main line, then I can take on h7 or f4. f4, e5, do I have knight e6? No, I have bishop c4, right, and that's mate. Or, if the king moves there, it's mate. They can play rook f7. Okay, so they cannot move that. So they can't really attack the pinned piece. And again, there's this queen g3, and threat is queen h2. Just developing, but with things like the queen now has more options, and also I'm off the f-file. It's okay. Not familiar enough with the themes. 3 for 5. It's okay.